in an unexplored world of deception and evil. From the vast nothingness of the bottom of the ocean to the concrete jungles of our uncivilized society. The truth behind all of your fears lies in a digital matrix. Hidden beneath layers of binary code, disguised as a podcast. Brought to you from the depths of the abyss by the sea people slaying, intro delaying, mystery creating, human hating minds of your co-hosts. Fridays at midnight GMT. Ladies and gentlemen, the Midnight Hour.
What's going on, guys? My name is Aldeniro and welcome to episode 10 of the Midnight Hour. I'm joined once again by my co-host Jack.
What's going on? I'm always here.
See people and such.
Yep, and that.
You know how it is. This episode is going to be a question and answer one because most people seem to be down with that idea. It seemed to make a lot of sense. We did get the questions on our Ask FM account, which will be linked in the description if you want to ask one for the next time that we do one of these, or even suggest a topic or whatever it may be. We mostly took suggestions from Twitter this time. I did put it in the description of the last video, but I didn't actually mention it, so it kind of just, we took everything from Twitter just for a trial run of this to see how it goes. And if you do enjoy this type of episode, then leave a like or whatever, leave a comment, and we'll try and do more, like maybe every 5 or 10 episodes, or just whenever we run out of topics or something like that. So yeah, that's that. We'll get into the questions. We've got a lot of them. I don't know how many we're going to get through in this, or if we might have to do a part 2 at some point or whatever. But the first question that I have is from Anonymous, because that's how Ask FM works, unless they type their name at the end of it. What are your thoughts on piracy? For example, streaming films, music, etc.
I've actually got quite a lot to say about this, because I mean, for those of you that don't know, I study film production technology at university. And obviously I want to get into making films, not necessarily directing, but I've got my passion in cinematography and editing. So, you know, obviously I feel it'd be a bit hypocritical of me to say that I'm perfectly okay just to pirate films and stuff like that, and music, and just, you know, for it all to be okay because people make plenty of money off of it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, but I'd be a liar if I said that I've never pirated a film, a TV series, or music. I do it fairly regularly.
It's too easy, isn't it?
Like, it's way too easy.
Yeah, it's just, it's on the internet, and like, it's kind of just, even if you didn't pay for it, there would be another way to watch it legally for free anyway at some point. Like, it's just, I don't know, I always find it so strange that the music industry, specifically I'll stick to the music industry, the way that they complain about people stealing from them and all, and they come out with these, Hollywood and the movie industry came out with a statistic like last year that was something like, piracy costs us like $400 billion a year, and it's like, how have you quantified that? That's literally impossible to quantify. You can't actually come up with a statistic for how much money that you've lost, because at the end of the day, the question is, does one download equal a lost sale? And I'd argue that most of the time it doesn't. Like, I remember when I was working in an office and like I had a fairly good salary for a year or whatever, I used to buy every single piece of music that I listened to, even if it was music that I'd never heard before. I'd just be like, yeah, I'll see what this album is like, and I bought it. And that's like the way that you should do things. But say you want to try out some new music that you've never heard before, and you download it illegally, you listen to it, you don't like it, and then you just delete it and never listen to it again. Is that really a lost sale, or is that the same as you hearing a song on the radio and thinking, well, I'm never going to buy that? Like,
yeah, I mean, you saying that, I mean, especially in terms of film, I always think about it in terms of Blockbuster. Blockbuster, you go rent a game, a film, whatever, you watch it, and if you really want it, you know, you buy it. You know, that was it. It was there to rent. You were renting it, and that's how I try. You know, I can't afford all the films and music that I want to buy, but you know, where I can, I will just, you know, use piracy almost as a renting device, as it were.
I think the music industry in particular is ran by a bunch of old, like, baby boomer generation white men who haven't got a clue how the world works. They don't even know what the internet is, probably. And I think their failure to adapt to the times is an example of why there's so many people pirating things. Like, I know that Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails released his 2008 album The Slip and just gave it away for free because it seemed like the logical thing to do. And like, he toured off the back of that album. Obviously he has a fairly substantial back catalogue that would sell tickets regardless, but the Slip tour that took place around the year 2009 was, you know, a huge success. And there was a film company that followed them on tour of something like 30 people that filmed every show, and they did it in a really professional type way, but it was all just part of a production that they did for free pretty much. And then they gave away all the shows for free as well, and that will lead to more sales for you at the end of the day. Like, people will look at how good you are and then buy things for the future related to that, you know. Like, it's sort of, it's like a business model where you just have to show people what you're capable of in order to sell. Like, most people, I know that most artists since the year 2000 or so haven't made the bulk of their money through CD sales. It's through touring. That's where bands really make their money. It's not album sales at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was either Kaiser Chiefs or Kasabian who released not the most recent album. This was a while ago, but they released it online, and it was either you could buy it you could have it for free and you could download it for free, or you could pay what you wanted towards the cost of what you thought it was worth. So say you wanted to pay, you know, £5 for it, and you had £5 spare, you could pay that to support the band, and it wasn't.
I know the first band that did that was Radiohead with their album In Rainbows in the year 2007. I remember they did that, and I remember thinking, because I was such a fucking hipster at that. I was so hipster that I didn't even like Radiohead, and I was like, I'm just going to download it for nothing and then delete it. Like, but yeah, I know that they did it, and I know that it was a success for them as well. But I guess there is this kind of uncomfortable question of, is it better for, or is it easier for a band who's already made their reputation to do that? And I would say that it is. But there's an EP that was released by a rap group called Run the Jewels. There's a producer called LP. He's pretty famous, and then there's Killer Mike is the guy who does most of the rapping, and LP does the production, but they both rap on the album. It's called Run the Jewels. It's technically an EP, but it's 37 minutes and 10 tracks long, and it's incredible. Like, as a rap fan, it's one of the best things I've heard in the last 5 years from pretty much any genre. Like, I absolutely love it, and they released that for free, and I would never have gone out of my way to find this because I just didn't know what it was. I actually heard it on another podcast, and I downloaded it for free because that's what they were offering it for. And because of that, if they ever tour Europe, like, I'm gonna be there seeing them. And like, I didn't even know that they were a group before that. So I think that it works that way, you know. If you give away a little bit of music for free, that's how you'll see the benefits come back through, you know, t-shirt sales, ticket sales, and stuff like that.
I agree completely. I think especially starting artists, you know, if you're giving your music away for free, you know, it's important to monetize where you can, but you know, small-time artists that are recording, say, out of their bedroom. There was a guy who was on Reddit a couple of months ago called Kelvin Jones, and I've really, you know, I've done all of his stuff is on his SoundCloud for free, and I've downloaded everything he's made, and he's just a kid in his bedroom with a guitar, you know, really. I've downloaded everything of his, and I as soon as he releases an actual album that I can buy, I will buy it. There's no question about that. As soon as I can, I will.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I first started listening to Codeline. I downloaded some of their stuff for free, but since then I've bought every, you know, album that they've put out.
I'm telling Steve.
Good for him.
You're going to get put in jail. But I've actually asked Steve his opinion on that before, and he said, like, it's like, as long as people hear it, I don't care. It's a shame people can't download one of our gigs. Like, and I just thought that was an awesome way of looking at it. Like, is pretty much. And another thing as well in favor of it is that, say, in the 80s and the 90s and whatever, like, the amount of money a label would put into a band was colossal because you had to buy all of this equipment for everything. And since then, everything has pretty much been downscaled. And if you look at, even like, most bands nowadays don't even do live studio drumming. They use a drum track and stuff like that. Like, the cost has gone down completely. And, like, has their income gone down completely? Yes, because they don't have the album sales to account for anymore. But you can factor in that they've spent way more on equipment back then than they do now. So that kind of evens it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I know they actually did a survey they did a study in Switzerland that actually came back and showed that people who pirated music were far more likely to pay for music, because they would just like pirate, you know, a song or two or an album or whatever, and because they liked it so much they would purchase the rest of it, because most people do that anyway. Well, in my opinion, they do.
I agree. I do that. I definitely do that.
Like, you have to kind of look at it as, say, someone who's a student and they've got like student debts or whatever, like, and if they go out and pirate something, the fact is they're not going to buy it if they don't pirate it. They're not going to buy it anyway because they can't afford it. Like, so it's not... And another thing is when they block things from being viewed in other people's countries. You know what I mean? Like, I live in Ireland. I get a lot of things from the UK blocked. So, like, if I pirate that, does it really matter? Because I'm not going to be able to fucking see it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, unless I move to England.
No, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like a... It's sort of wherever you stand morally, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's kind of a moral obligation. I feel morally obligated to support the people that I like and enjoy, because if I don't support them, you know, actually fiscally, then they're not going to create more. Because if they kind of go, oh shit, well, no one's buying our stuff, they can't just keep creating music off the enjoyment of others. You know, they've got to have money to live by.
I remember. You remember the movie Dread? When that came out, I heard that what I read was that the studio didn't want to make a sequel because they didn't make enough money from the first one because so many people pirated it. And again, I don't know how you can quantify that, you know? Like, sometimes a cult movie has a cult following, but they don't get to make a sequel based off of the cult following because it's not enough. I think Firefly and Serenity are a good example of that. But like, if Joss Whedon was to turn around and say, yeah, we can't make a Serenity sequel because too many people pirated the first, you'd be like, well, is that really true, or is it just that most people don't actually know what it is? It just has a cult following. I find that all very, like, you can just throw out words like pirated and all that, but you can't really ever quantify how much it... Oh, one last thing I actually want to say about piracy was that Iron Maiden recently... hired somebody. They hired a firm, I think, a web searching firm, to go onto the deep web and analyze torrents of their albums specifically and where they were being torrented the most. And it was countries like Brazil, Argentina, I think Bulgaria, Romania, countries like that. And so they announced a world tour, and those were the countries that they went to first, and they sold out straight away everywhere because they knew they had a fan base there, which is a really positive way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely too much negativity towards from the kind of fat cats that run these kind of things, especially the big music companies. There's way too much almost misunderstanding of the internet, I think, is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I think most...
They definitely are still living in an era, a pre-internet era, where anybody not paying for their music is, you know, that's a bad thing. Yeah. Whereas it's not necessarily a truth.
They're still getting mad at people with cassette players who are recording the radio and stuff like that. But shall we find another question?
Yeah, sure. There's not going to be any easy way for us to segue between these questions, by the way. We operate under a lot of we operate under certain handles and internet names.
Yeah.
Did you have any weird nicknames when you were younger?
I don't think I ever did. Like, because my actual name, is really easy to make a nickname out of anyway. Like, you know how if your name is Michael, people call you Mike. My name is just like that anyway, so no one ever really made a nickname of it. I think the first one that I ever had was just a shortened version of my actual name, and then after, like, even my last name, you can't really make a nickname out of it unless you're being particularly cruel. So I don't think I ever did. Like, De Niro was the first one that I had, and I think I was 13 or maybe 12 at the time. When I went to college in Scotland, everybody there just referred to me as Irish because I was the Irish guy in the class, and like, conceptually that is the laziest nickname that you could possibly apply to someone. Like, if you know what I mean, like, I would never refer to you as alright English, like that. I think that's ridiculous, but
it is definitely kind of ridiculous. I mean, I've never really had nicknames per se, apart from ones that were used to kind of try and break my morale when I used to get bullied a lot. But so, you know, nothing particularly great. And the funny thing is, my old Twitter handle username, the name that I used to go by a lot was Jack Swagasaurus. For anyone that doesn't know,
Yeah.
and I've always had a lot of people kind of tweet me going, "Huh, Swagasaurus, fucking swag cunt." And it's like, it's sarcastic. Like, it's the combination of swag and dinosaur. Like, leave me alone.
The two greatest things to ever walk the earth: swag and dinosaurs.
Yeah, like, it was the most ridiculous thing I could think of at the time. And originally I changed my Twitter name to it as a joke. And then I was too lazy to change it back. And it stuck around for like 2 years.
And then
it was just ridiculous.
Then you changed it to something even worse than that.
Yeah, I'm not good with internet names. I am not good with them at all.
Your Twitter name right now is Sassmaster General. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, but that's because I find it funny.
Yeah.
Again, everything is about whether it's funny or not to me.
Yeah, I told my friend Christian, he was making a new PSN account because he wanted to see how high he could get his KDR. And he was like, what'll I call my account? And I was just like, call it Organic Jet Ski. That's what he did. Like, I always come up with names like that. Like, Nep has had several online like FIFA accounts, and his accounts on the 6th day, Artificial Air, I can't even remember, but I've come up with loads in it. Like, those were the names that I came up with because we were on Skype and he was just like, give me a name. I've got a separate PSN account, and the name on it is buried_in_space. Like, I don't know, I like funny names on the internet that they make you think for a little, like, just for a brief second of what the hell it actually means.
And then you realise that it means nothing at all.
Yeah, but I like that little, not wordplay as such, but just use of words in a weird way that you would never use before. Like, if that makes sense. Like, this isn't really related to that, but you know the Doge meme?
Yeah.
That is the funniest thing in the world to me, and it hasn't reached that stage that a meme gets to where it's just so boring to listen to. But the look on the dog's face and how ridiculous it is with the stupidity of, like, very dig and, you know, like, much happy and all.
Such good, much wow.
That's the funniest thing in the world. I can't even explain why, though. It's just the way I think about words, I think.
It's alright. The sad thing is that I genuinely understand why it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but I really do understand why that whole Doge thing is just ridiculously hilarious.
It's just so mental. Like, it's just crazy. It's just the internet. It's like, you could show that to somebody who's never been to the internet and they would just not understand at all what the hell you're doing with your life, you know?
I think you could show that to a lot of people that are on the internet and they would wonder what you're doing with your life that makes you find that hilarious.
You have to learn a certain level of meme before you can be accepted as, like, part of the internet, really, don't you?
Yeah, and then you exceed that certain level of meme, and then you start making David Moyes memes, and then that all goes downhill from there, really.
Yeah, that's not a good place to be. I know this from personal experience. Speaking of the internet, this question: can you hear my dog barking?
Just about, nothing major.
Yeah, he heard all the Doge jokes, and he's just not having it. Do you think the world would be able to cope if the internet was to disappear?
That's a big one. It's tough because we discussed this briefly just before we started this, and I don't know what I'd do. Like, if all of a sudden the internet disappeared, first it would be, my fucking connection again, and then it would kind of be, I'll tweet asking if everyone else is in news. Oh shit!
Yeah,
I can't tweet. Hang on, I'll text someone. That's okay. I could still do that, and then it would kind of be like the realization that so many things on the internet are just so many things. The internet is just integrated with your life now, and it's just gone. And I don't even know what people would do because, you know, not even just on a personal resident level, like residents and stuff like that, industry and federal level, the internet is just integrated to everything. And sure, there'd be. I mean, if the internet's just disappeared, I know there wasn't any stipulation as to exactly how it disappeared in the question, but, you know, say all of the hard drives with everything, all the information on it as well, disappeared as well. That's so much information, and we'd lose so much. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, we've grown to accept it as part of everything that we do, to the point that imagining life without it isn't really a good idea.
It's not really possible either.
It's like the way that we, like, humans are great. Like, we can do all these things. We can build things, and, you know, we can look after ourselves, and we survive and stuff. But let's say you were put in the forest for like a week and told to survive. Would you really know how to light a fire without a lighter, and, you know, how to stay warm enough to not, like, you know, all that kind of stuff? Like,
I do know how, but that's because I've Googled it in the past.
See, I would not have a clue. Like, I would be more inclined to just give up, like, on day 2, probably, because I would just know that there'd be no way I could survive that. And that's kind of an example of, like, you know, companies now, without the internet, what do they really do? How do they really even go about conducting their business? Particularly, like, I'd say global entities would be okay because they have this ability to use, like, mass telecommunication or whatever. But without, like, automated ordering systems and automated shipping that's all hooked up to the same line, it's just, I don't know, the world would definitely be, like, I honestly reckon that if the internet were to just vanish, there would be chaos.
Yeah, I think that, I'm not saying there'd be widespread panic, but I think it probably would, really.
There'd be widespread anxiety attacks from the introverts whose only home is the internet. Like,
there'd be an influx of people running around shouting about what they're doing because they've lost the ability to tweet.
How many of you like this? How many?
People just slamming pictures of their dogs and cats into your face because they've no longer got Facebook.
Yeah, people just, every time someone sees something that they like, they just put their thumb up, and group conversations all take place inside of the back of a van somewhere or something, like. And then
I imagine the whole thumbs up thing for, like, likes and favourites and retweets would get very sarcastic very quickly.
Yeah.
Everything would just seem incredibly sarcastic.
That's another thing that without Twitter, like, I get a little bit lost because, I don't know, just the fact that I can just share something, like, something that comes into my mind, like, be it a joke or a really negative view of something, or, you know, like, I always try and put a little bit of dark humor in everything that I do. Without Twitter, I would have no way of, what's the word, exercising that outlet. Like, I'd have no outlet for that thing, like, that makes me want to do that, and that would be really weird, I think.
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean, because I took a short, I every now and then I like to take a short break from Twitter just to remember that I don't have to tweet everything that comes to my mind.
I actually understand that urge as well. Yeah,
but then it's nice to come back and just go, so women, in the kitchen they should be.
Lol, lad banter.
Yeah, and just do something ridiculous. It's somewhere that you can say something completely ridiculous and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter at all, unless you want to threaten American Airlines.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, but then you're a bit stupid.
Or insult Liverpool's alternate kit, because I've done that a few times, and there's always people who get really offended and take it personally. And I've learned that football fans are just crazy, so that's just the way that is.
Anyway, on the kind of topic of mass hysteria, if a zombie outbreak was to occur, what would the zombies be like? Or what would you imagine it to be like, you know, what kind of zombies would they be? Would they be the kind of running type, the slow walking, dragging their legs on type? What are we talking here? What do you reckon? I
reckon that if it were to happen, I think they would be the slow walking type, because there's precedent for that type of zombie. It's already existed in Haiti. However, if that was done by humans to the point where they pretty much organized the whole thing and stood by as it happened, like, what happened was they hit people with this drug that puts you to sleep for a few days. It essentially kills you. Like, it slows down your heart rate to as slow as it can go without you dying. Then they put you in the ground, and when they dig you up, they give you this drug that makes you really disorientated. Is it disoriented or disorientated?
Disoriented.
Really?
I think so.
I refuse to believe that. But with this disorientation, and confusion, which you would naturally have anyway after dying and coming back from the dead. Like, that's what happened, was these people were just walking around aimlessly and stuff. And I mean, it was a short-lived thing. It was part of some ritual or whatever, but that's already happened, so it could happen again. There's a brain parasites argument that makes sense. Supposedly they've seen this in animals, and they've seen it in, I forget where it was. I think it was in the south of Africa somewhere.
I know there's been almost zombie-inducing parasites that have infected spiders and ants and the like.
Yeah.
They essentially take over the spider's nervous system. I know there's several photos and stuff of these spiders that have been overtaken by this parasite. There's also like a fungus that can infiltrate the spider's nervous system, and it can start to control the spider and then grow out of the spider's body, which is pretty fucked up.
That is fucked up, yeah. Nature, you scary. But yeah, there's precedent for that to happen. The only thing about zombies is that how do you make them angry, or how do you make them hungry specifically for human flesh?
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to believe it's possible. I need this.
Is this something you need in your life?
Yes.
The possibility of a mass zombie outbreak.
Yeah, it's like my only purpose in life, I think, is the zombie apocalypse, and either making predictions of it, or being ready for it, or helping humanity overcome it. But it's definitely a central thing in my timeline of life, I'm sure.
Yeah, what would be your first stop, say there was to be a zombie outbreak?
I really don't know. Like, this is the thing. I talk a big game, but I'm really nothing more than just that. I think the one place that I would go is to my cousin Dara's house, because it's a big house and it's in an area where there's not a lot of things around it. So if you were to look out the window, you would be able to see into a field or whatever. And plus there's a river next to it which you could get into and use to escape from the zombies. A little bit like the one at the start of 28 Weeks Later when Robert Carlyle goes up the river. That would be my first protocol, would be to go there and pretty much just wait for Dara to like come up with some ridiculous plan, because he's a dangerous human being when he's angry enough, and I reckon that it would be pretty bad for the zombies, and I would just have a great time tagging along and, you know, killing all the people that I don't like who happen to turn into zombies, and some of the ones who didn't.
I have the feeling that a tower of sorts, something with a narrow stairway, would really be helpful.
Yeah.
You know, to defend yourself, because that way, you know, say you've got a shovel, as long as you've got enough room to just about swing it, they can't really come up the stairs more than one at a time. No,
they can't.
So, you know, I mean, it's like the thing in I remember reading this thing in Afghanistan. They specifically picked the Taliban. They specifically pick tunnels and cave systems that are thin enough so that you can't walk through forwards, you've got to turn your shoulders.
Oh, right.
So that one man can defend a corridor against, you know, it doesn't matter how many men you've got running down that corridor. No more than one man going sideways can get through at a time.
Yeah.
So one Taliban can defend a whole corridor by himself easily. You know.
Yeah.
And that's my thinking. I'm using guerrilla warfare tactics here. That's what I'm thinking.
It's the most effective, really. Like, well, I mean, it's probably not as effective as dropping napalm on everything that exists, but guerrilla warfare is tactical, it's strategic. It's also the thing that will win you a war of attrition. Guerrilla warfare doesn't require as much resources as a total wipeout, or, you know, that thunder and lightning warfare, or whatever that Hitler thing that he invented was. But I think that would be the most effective, especially when your enemy isn't really equipped to deal with any kind of warfare. Yeah. Guerrilla tactics are the best way to go, because it minimizes casualties, and your enemy is there for the taking, pretty much.
Yeah, I think especially if we're talking, you know, slow walking kind of zombies. I mean, really, an escape method is just a brisk walk. Like, I've never understood these kind of zombies. You know, there's scenes I haven't really watched The Walking Dead extensively. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes here and there, but these zombies aren't exactly quick moving, and these people are running and they're running and they're running, and then the camera turns and the zombies, there they are, 10 feet away from them, slowly advancing, and the characters are running and running and running and running, and then the camera turns and the zombies are still 10 feet behind them, walking slowly.
They are the most, like, if you could pick out any bunch of characters on any TV show in the history of TV and say these people are likely to get outwitted by people who don't even have brains and can't run very fast, the Walking Dead cast would be those people. They are the worst. I fucking hate The Walking Dead, but I love it, but I hate it. You know what I mean?
Ironically enough, it's a kind of a turn your brain off kind of show.
It is, yeah. But the thing is that they haven't found a medium really between soap opera and zombies, and it's just awful. But if they were like, if you ever talk about zombies and zombie movies to people who are, oh god, shut up, dog. People who are interested in zombies always correct you when you say 28 days later, because they'll say they're not zombies, they're people infected with rage. And that's a fair point. They aren't really zombies, but they are infected with rage and they're angry enough to beat the shit out of every single human and, you know, eat them and whatever. That's far more terrifying than any zombie reality.
Definitely.
I can't even imagine like your strategy for that just immediately changes when they can run really fast. Yeah,
I mean, if they can move quickly, then the whole game changes, you know. And if they're still humans of relative, you know, cognition, you know, able of some sort of cognitive thought, then the game changes completely. Because if they can think about, oh, there must be more than one entrance than this one that we're trying to get through, that we saw them go through, then you're kind of fucked, you know.
Yeah, you are, yeah. The next question is from a guy called Jay Cook, and he says, do you prioritize your heart or your brain?
That's something that, I mean, I'm only 21. That's something that I am really still trying to get to grips with in terms of things. I can tell you as much between prioritising my brain and my heart is that I kind of have foregone the more academic route that I was originally intended to go down with my university education.
Yeah.
Originally I wanted to become, or I say I wanted to become, I was kind of heading down the route towards doing something to do with physics, specifically astrophysics and aeronautical engineering.
Oh, wow.
And I've kind of forgone that whole route to follow, you know, a kind of a lifelong passion in film, really. So I think that is probably the best example of the fact that I too tend to, you know, follow my. I believe that you should follow your passions in life.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say that I do prioritise my heart over my brain, but then again, I am incredibly cynical and logical about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think my answer would be the exact same. Like I've never I don't know, I'm 2 years off a business degree and I've no intention of going back to college or university anytime really right now. Like, it doesn't seem to be what I want. Like, what I want to do is this, pretty much, like some variation or some extension of talking to people on the internet or whatever it may be, like kind of just following my passion in life and stuff like that. So it is pretty much like I definitely follow the heart. And like the thing is, like, I've got a good brain. Like, I know I could have gotten really good results if I tried, but I just don't. I just didn't care, so I just did what I wanted to do instead. And it's really hard to find a balance between those things, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be fair to say that we're both the kind of people who are relatively intelligent. We're those annoying kind of people that always say that we could have done better if we'd tried.
Yeah.
But if we were genuinely that much smarter, we probably would have tried.
Yeah, that's actually like a kind of fork in the road I always come to when I overthink things like that, and I'm just like, yeah, well, if I'm so smart, why didn't I just fucking do that? I don't like to say that I'm smart, because I don't really even understand how you would define that. Like what's that quote about? I don't know, like a fish isn't very smart if you judge smart on his ability to climb a tree or something like that. I think it's misattributed to Einstein all the time, but I don't think he actually said it. But either way, it's still a true quote, I think. Like, how do you even judge that? How do you even, like, I don't know. I think academically I'm fairly capable of following the rules to any exam. Like if you put a Sylvia Plath poem in front of me and tell me to decipher it, I'm able to. But having said that, I can't even install a fucking desk from IKEA without help. So am I really smart? Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I definitely think different people are intelligent in different things. You know, I mean, it's fairly I say it's fairly common, relatively common to come across someone who can be incredibly smart and I know people that are very smart and in good paying jobs, you know, respectable jobs, but they lack common sense completely, and spatial awareness is just not their thing.
yeah.
Like, and saying that spatial awareness is a form of intelligence is an odd thing, I guess. But no matter how much training I got, I'd never be able to do what, say, Tom Daley does in terms of diving, which requires that much kind of spatial awareness.
Yeah.
To be able to turn and execute those moves in the air. But I'd like to think that I'm probably smarter than him at some things.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure it's possible. I like to think I'm smarter than professional footballers at everything apart from football, because I've seen their tweets and I've seen that they can't spell, and for some reason that's the way that I judge
validate
intelligence.
yourself.
Yeah, like, so I kind of do it unconsciously too. Like, I just think, well, that guy can't spell, so he's not that clever. But like, I'm such a hypocrite because Dara, my cousin who was on the Dreams episode, like, I honestly think he's one of the smartest guys I've ever known. But like, if you ask him to, like, you give him the Sylvia Plath poem, he's just gonna look at it and go like, "What is this? This is bullshit. Like, I don't want anything to do with this." Like, he's not. And I don't think he would object to me saying this or anything, but he's not like academically versed or trained, and just because he doesn't understand it and he doesn't seem to, like, he realizes that he doesn't need it because it's not what he wants to do. And I think that the fact that he's following what he wants to do, that makes him smart. Like,
and I think there's an important difference to because you mentioned not being able to decipher the Sylvia Plath poem, but I think I do. Not even just, it's not even subconscious, it's a conscious. I do judge people that can't write incorrect, that can't write incorrect English.
Yeah.
Grammatically correct English.
Yeah, so do I.
And I will judge you for that. And I understand shortening words like you and stuff like that to fit in a tweet count, that's fine. But I will definitely judge you if you can't put a basic English sentence together with the correct form of your or their.
I once got this email from a boss of mine, and it said like somebody's coming to the office today, so when you're finished your lunch, make sure you blah blah blah. And it was YOUR, and I was just like, you've just used that word in two completely separate contexts. And you know that you've done it because you typed the sentence and you came up with it and you wrote, when you are finished your lunch. Like, you know that you've just applied two completely separate, like, it's not even the same word. Why have you spelt it the same way? Like, why do you think that this is the same word when it's quite clearly not? And it's like, I obviously didn't say that because I like my life as an employee at the time. But I could not get my head around it. And from having friends who never did well in English in school, or who like were in a WhatsApp chat or whatever and they don't spell well at all, I've just learned that some people just aren't able to think that way. And I can't actually say that makes you less intelligent, because I can't fucking add, like if someone says to me 17 plus like 14, because it doesn't equate to a round number, I'm just not able to do it in my head. But that's such a basic sum, that's just an example. I know that it's 57. But
yeah, I mean, I do feel like a bit of a dick saying that I judge people for that, but I mean, it's something that I can't even claim that I do it subconsciously, because I definitely consciously make a note of it. I guess I don't know. I guess I kind of think of it as an almost something as simple as almost the English language. Something that you speak, you write, you read on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Out day in, day out. Every hour of the day, almost you're reading, writing, speaking. The ignorance, almost. I think that's the only word I can really think of. Ignorance, to not put the correct use of there, or there, and your, and to not learn that basic thing.
I agree. Like, I do think that,
that's what pisses me off.
Most of the time, I think it's just laziness as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wonder, is the syntax of actually the language the same as like the mathematical thing? Because I would argue that maths is easier to understand than a language.
Yeah, well, maths, they say that maths is the universal language, isn't it?
Yeah, and here I am, fucking incapable of doing the there of maths. Like, I just cannot even do that. So, I don't know, I just wonder where that all ends or begins or whatever. Like, I just wonder why. Like, for me, I definitely judge bad grammar. Like, I read it and I silently despair or whatever, but it feels like it's a pre-programmed thing in my head, like something that I just pathologically do.
Yeah. But, funnily enough, the question that I was looking at next kind of goes along these lines. If superiority didn't exist, would the world be a better place? Now, I don't know if this is in terms of the kind of superiority that we've just been expressing over certain things, or if it's a literal workplace kind of superiority.
Well, if superiority didn't exist, everyone would be on my level, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
And I'm not sure anything would ever get done in the world.
Yeah, I think it's I can't really interpret that question without immediately going straight to, well, why doesn't communism work? And then it's the same thing. It's just like somebody is going to be superior because somebody has to answer, or somebody has to be the one that answers. Like, not everybody in life is going to be a leader. And that's a fact. Like, most people are just more comfortable being followers, because to be a leader, you have to make difficult decisions and you have to know things and you have to be confident in all of these things. But if nobody is leading anybody, then nobody is going to get anything done, like you said. Like, nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, I think I agree completely. I think I do agree completely that, there's got to be this kind of a hierarchy, this structure of importance almost. The important people making the big decisions and it kind of filtering down through the ranks, as it were.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it's always been in humanity, It's even in the animal kingdom, you've got the, let's say, lion, the king of the pride, and then you've got it filtering down through almost the ranks of the males to, the various jobs that they have to do, collecting food, protecting the cubs and whatever. So
yeah, even bees and ants and
it's a basic animal need, really.
Yeah, and it's definitely part of the human condition. Like, we wouldn't, if we're all left to our own devices, it's just not gonna end well, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need to monitor and enslave the population. That's what I believe. No, just kidding.
I agree.
It's just not feasible, I don't think, to assume that. Well, to even just eradicate something that, like you say, is just a hierarchical structure. It needs to be there. I think nobody would answer to anyone, and that's just not a good way to live, I guess. And I'm looking for the next question. The next question is, do you believe that if you put your mind to something, you'll always be able to achieve it and or improve on it?
That's a big one. In short, no. Sorry to crush anybody's dreams there, but no, I don't think so. Quick little anecdote. When I was younger, I wanted to be an astronaut. I know that sounds ridiculous, taking a kind of a childhood. We're talking, when I was 5, 6, 7, young enough to still think I could be an astronaut.
Yeah,
but
you can, man. I believe in you.
Astronauts are generally under 6 foot tall because of height issues with fitting in the space shuttle. They have good vision, which I don't have. Various things. So no matter how much I would like to be an astronaut, it's not going to happen. There's many things that aren't going to happen. I've said already that I do. I'm kind of at university doing film, and I'm never going to be. No matter how much I would love to have a big feature film and be maybe the cinematographer or the director of photography on a big feature film, a really successful film, that's never going to happen, most likely. No, I accept that fact, and it's just something that I'm okay with, as long as I can be happy with what I do. you know.
That's the when you say that like you'll never have a feature-length film or whatever, that's the cynical, logical part of your brain that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, right there.
I know, because I do the same thing, and people always say like, oh, you need to think positively, and it's like, well, you can think positively or you can think rationally, and one is easier than the other, and it kind of goes against your urge to think rationally in order to think positively. And as well as that, you can think positively all you want and build up and build up and build up, but if you get let down, like if you're not able to handle that, then it's not going to be a good end for you, and positive thinking won't have gotten you anywhere. I don't really believe in positive thinking, but I've been told from somebody who has made a huge success of his life that he owes it all to positive thinking. And I always just think, like, I know that he's telling the truth because it comes back to pretty much everything that he does, but I'm just not wired that way. And I think, to go back to the question, if you put your mind to something, that you'll always be able to achieve it, no. But if you're the right kind of person, then yes, you will. You just you have to have the perfect drive of self-confidence, belief, a little bit of positive thinking, but mostly rational thinking. You've got to be goal-orientated, you've got to be self-motivated, you've got to be all of these things that just, when I hear those words, I just immediately get turned off, because I'm not that kind of guy, and I don't think I ever will be, because I just have that cynical / rational like system that just overrides all of that stuff. And
yeah, I think one of my favourite, I think it's a quote from The Simpsons, but it's, you know, it might be a quote from, I think it's a quote from Homer Simpson. It was just aim low and avoid disappointment.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, if you set the bar low for yourself and you set the bar low to others around you, you can never be disappointed when they just about scrape under that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they've reached your expectations, as it were.
I may never become Prime Minister, but I might finish that bottle of Coke I bought earlier.
Yeah, and then you can sit there, you can finish that bottle of Coke and feel good about yourself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. There's another great one from Homer Simpson that's, you tried your best and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try.
Never try.
I think that's pretty appropriate too. That's, I don't know. I recently did, I guess I should say this, I recently applied for a job that I feel as though, I don't think I'm going to get it. Like, the rational, cynical part of me just thinks, like, no, what's going to happen is somebody who works there is going to know somebody who, you know, who wants to get paid to, like, whatever, and then they're just going to hire someone that they know. But if they're serious about it, they're going to interview me, and I just have this weird sort of onset of positive emotions about it. Like, I really think that if I got to the interview stage, that I would kill it and that I would be the guy. But I don't think I'll get there. So it's kind of weird for me. Like, I think I'm thinking about it in my most rational way, but it feels like it's positive, but it's actually just logical. Like, I think I'm the best person for it, and I've never had that before. And I think that kind of proves that although I don't necessarily think positively, I also don't think negatively. I just think rationally, and that's...
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake almost rational and logical, or what I consider to be rational and realistic thought, for pessimism.
Yeah.
You know, because people hear me say that I don't think I'll ever achieve this dream of mine, but that's not me being pessimistic. I'd love to achieve all of my dreams. That would be, you know, nothing could make me happier. But realistically, you know, look at it statistically. You know, not everybody is gonna meet their dreams and make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
So what is there to say that I'm the exception?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, apart from hard work. And I fully intend to put in as much hard work as I can. But there's only so much I can do.
Yeah.
You know, stars have got to align, as it were, for certain things to happen.
Yeah, I do. What I always look at, is there a precedent for someone like me succeeding in fields like this? And that's kind of the way I look at it. Even when I gamble, I do that. Like, if I'm gambling and I want to see, like, say, fucking, I don't know, Newcastle are playing Norwich and it's at St. James's Park, I'm going to look up how many times Norwich have ever won at St. James's Park. I'm going to look up the scores and see, were they over 2.5 goals and things like that. And this game, like, they could have all been 1-0 victories for Newcastle. This one could end 4-4. It's perfectly reasonable to assume it. But I'm going to think it won't, because I'll have looked at the history and see, is there precedent for a game to have ended 4-4, and if there isn't, then I'm not going to bet on it, you know? That's just kind of the way that... I don't know, I'm just wired that way, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think we're we're both very similar. I mean, this doesn't really. I suppose people will probably be fairly interested in what we have to say, because a lot of people seem to think quite differently to how we seem to think anyway.
Yeah, that's because we're so much better.
Yeah, obviously. Let's have a look for another question. If you were banished from your home country and given $2 million to start a new life, where would you go?
I think this is like the perfect scenario for me. I would do whatever it takes to get banished from my country and given $2 million. If like that's such a good start. I reckon I'd go to Canada and I'd get like a house somewhere, probably to the north of Canada, and just maybe live like a hermit, or maybe not, but I would get a fast internet connection and just maybe it's really hard, right? Because you've obviously committed a crime here in this scenario. So like, what does your CV look like? How do you obtain a social security number? Things like that are gonna come into effect. So maybe going to a country with such a perfect kind of bureaucratic system in every aspect of it, maybe that's actually going to really hinder your bid to stay in, covert mode. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think my choice is definitely between Australia and Canada, personally.
The two extremes of hot and cold.
Yeah, well, yeah. But mostly because they're both British colonies. They've got that debt-free healthcare going on. That is one big thing that actually turns me off of living in America.
Yeah, I couldn't do it just because of
really
that.
The healthcare.
Yeah. Well, Obamacare is actually all right.
Yeah, well, if it properly comes into effect, yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like Canada and Australia are two very beautiful places as well, because I want to live somewhere picturesque, as it were. Something that I don't experience much in England.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are lovely parts of England. I just haven't been to them.
Or you just take them for granted.
Possibly. Either that or just because the weather's shit.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, definitely Canada or Australia. And you said before we started this, because we discussed this briefly, that maybe somewhere, go somewhere, Japan or something, if you really wanted to get off the grid, as it were.
Yeah.
In terms of the Western world. But then again, I couldn't do something like that and stay off the grid, because if someone went, I think he's gone to Japan, let's go to Japan, I'd probably end up being in somewhere fairly obvious, because I'm not great at this. Plus I'm a 6'2" gingerly bearded man, like amongst a lot of Japanese people. It's going to be fairly easy to go, there he is.
I think you would.
The one that's about a foot taller than everybody else.
I think you'd stand out in Japan, all right. Yeah. I think that would happen.
I think I'd stand out pretty much anywhere apart from a white Western country.
Yeah. Scandinavia would be good. I think I would get along pretty well in somewhere like Sweden, because I've got blonde hair, and maybe Finland because I'm pretty pale. I only say that because there's a band called Him, and they're from Finland, and their singer, like Ville, whatever his fucking name is, Valo, he's really fucking pale. So that's my perception of Finland, because that's how pop culture works. So
yeah, I remember reading a fact that Finland has the most technological appliances per capita in the world, or something ridiculous like that.
Really?
Yep, some pointless statistic that I'll carry to the grave for no apparent reason.
You'll have it on your tombstone.
Did you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to imagine how that tombstone would work. Who would have a "did you know" fact on his tombstone?
I think the guy who runs Uber Facts.
Yeah.
That's who.
No, but he would have a made up fact, because they're all fucking made up.
Yeah.
And unsourced. But Finland is, I don't know, I've always had a fascination with Finland and just Scandinavia. I never know if Finland is part of Scandinavia, because either in Scandinavia was Denmark, Norway, Sweden, but now supposedly it's Iceland and Finland as well. But I don't know. I
have no idea.
I think it's just them three, and then there's Finland and Iceland that are separate, but equally as beautiful. Iceland would be great, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of all the, the kind of most beautiful places in the world, regardless of
yeah,
logistics and free healthcare and the like.
The next question is, from Anonymous, and it says, Kevin Bacon does my tits in. Do you share the same experience?
Kevin Bacon is a special breed of human being who, when being born, he came out head first, directly into a shovel. Much like pugs and bulldogs, Kevin Bacon looks like at birth or early on in his life he was hit in the face with a shovel. And that's no disrespect to him. I'm sure some people find him very attractive for God knows what reason. But in my opinion, Kevin Bacon's face is not aligned as it should be.
He's got a good pair of eyes, I'd say.
It's better than Steve Buscemi's eyes.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Like, Kevin Bacon has... I'm glad someone brought this up, because it needed to be said. There's nothing really wrong with him. Like, he's not really a bad actor or whatever. He just acts like a complete dick. He has this sort of John Bon Jovi swagger going on about him. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just sort of seems like he comes from an era where he thinks everything he said. Like, I don't know.
He's still got that swagger left over from Footloose.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think that's what annoys me.
Yeah. That's actually perfectly believable.
Do you get the EE adverts over there?
I've seen him, yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about Amy Childs and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the reason. I can't see that it being any of the films that he's been in that particularly annoy people. I think it's literally just those adverts.
Yeah.
And his smug little face going, look at me, you should join EE. I'm Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, well, he was in Tremors, and that's a classic. That's one of the greatest movies ever made, probably. It came on in the pub the other night, and I was watching it, and I realised how good it was. But my mate Andy said Kevin Bacon is the same as John Bon Jovi, and I was like, no, he's not. Well, actually, with that long hair.
Now you say it.
Yeah, and then I realised I hate Kevin Bacon, and that's just... Yeah, I don't know who decided to submit this question, but it coincided with the week that I learned I didn't like him that much. So, although The River Wild is a pretty good movie, that's quite picturesque as well, and the way that it's shot and all. Like, I quite like that movie, but
I think despite his face, he's okay with me.
Yeah, I think he's good. He just fucking really annoys me if I think about it long enough. You know, like, it's one of those things.
One of those irrational hatreds. See, I've got an almost irrational hatred for Eamon Holmes.
Oh no, trust me, that's not irrational.
No, yeah, I guess it's really not. I do have a irrational hatred for a lot of people, though. A lot of celebrities, anyway.
Adrian Chiles,
yeah. You
just know he's the type of guy who, like, he just has no interest in football. He's just trying to fit in with the lads. Like, that's what his end game is here. He's just, yeah, lads, let's go watch the football. Yeah, what do you think about the football today, lads? Barcelona are pretty good, aren't they? And everyone's just like, shut up, Adrian. Like, we're not even talking about football. We're talking about fiscal policy. And he's like, you bunch of wankers.
You wankers, lad.
He's just such a dick. Like, probably a really nice guy. I just, not in the job that he belongs in.
I think so, yeah.
But I don't know. Who else do we have
an irrational hatred for?
Yeah.
I really hate the guy who was Richard on Richard and Judy.
Oh yeah, I get that.
In fact, do you know what? I hate them both, Richard and Judy.
Do you hate anyone who wasn't the host of a morning show? Do you hate mornings? Is that where all of this stems from?
I really hate mornings. Do you know what? Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield get a pass for me.
Holly Willoughby is the most perfect. Like, what a woman.
Yeah, what a woman.
And she just seems like such a lovely person as well.
I know. I think that Schofield gets a pass simply because he's in her presence.
Yeah.
And that's why I can tolerate him.
Yeah. He does actually seem alright, though. But, I don't know.
Speaking of morning breakfast shows, this Katie Hopkins woman that is on the one with them a lot.
Yeah.
This bitch.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. That's not an irrational hatred.
She can't be like that. But she actually is. Like, a lot of people say, like, yeah, she's trolling the world. It's a calculated, you know, it's all this. It's an image that's made to get you to watch the show and all. But there are people like her in the world.
Yeah.
Like, so it's perfectly logical to assume that she is being 100% serious. Like, not everything is a PR stunt in the world.
Yeah.
And she's just, whatever, if it's her or if it's her persona, it's awful. It's truly horrible. Like, and it's really good that people have rejected it so outspokenly.
Unanimously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's, she's just such a vile. For anyone who doesn't know who she is, she's just this upper class snob who hates pretty much everything, and she sees everyone as being below her. She hates tattoos. She hates baby names that aren't John or Paul.
Or Pope the Second.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just where I go. I get everything I know from popes, really, like everything in the world. But yeah, like she's just a horrible human being, really.
She makes me like cringe a little bit just thinking about her.
Yeah, I remember like watching the first thing that got her first like spell of infamy when she was saying how
kids' names couldn't be
and she was just
that one.
She was just so, I don't know.
When isn't one of her children called India, and she was having a go at people calling their kids after like London and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And one of her kids is called India.
It was Brooklyn that she said. Yeah, she was talking about the Beckhams, and she's like, it's a place. You can't name your child after a place. And it's like, don't you have a kid called India? It's like, yeah, but that's not a place. Like, all right then, this conversation's over.
I know my geography's bad, but holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of TV, what's the best TV program you've ever seen?
It's tough. I reckon there was a TV show called Rescue Me that came out around the year 2002. Dennis Leary was in it, and I think he was the co-executive producer or something like that. It was his show, though. It was widely known as his show. The first maybe 4 seasons of that is the best thing I've ever seen on TV ever. Seasons 5, 6, and 7 were okay in bits, but so over the top and stupid in other parts. But the first 4 seasons were incredible. I have them on DVD, and I watch them like once a year. Like, I'll always go back and watch them again. Like, the characters are incredible. I think that's what makes a TV show, really, is its characters. I don't care too much about whether or not it obeys its internal logic, or you know, if it does things and if it changes characters a little bit just to suit a narrative or whatever. I don't mind, as long as the characters are really good.
Yeah, I think acting comes down to it a lot.
Yeah.
And no matter how, you know, well it's written, I mean, it can be relatively poorly written with poor logic that you can poke holes in, but as long as it's well acted, I think you're all right with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But my favourite would actually be it's actually BBC's Sherlock. I am one of those people that's just a massive fanboy of it, and I'm not a cumber bitch or whatever they're called.
Yeah, they're annoying.
I thoroughly enjoy the story. The stories and kind of trying to, you know, kind of the pursuit of trying to figure it out before Sherlock does that kind of thing, and also I love the way it's shot as well. It's so beautifully shot.
Yeah.
And, you know, being a kind of a camera and film snob, that's another thing that's really kind of important for me in a TV show. You know, editing and the way the cinematography of a show can actually completely put me off watching it, no matter how good the reviews are for it.
Yeah. Do you like House at all?
I haven't seen it. That's another thing that's on my very, very long list to watch.
I reckon that if you like Sherlock Holmes, you'll like House, because it's the same. Sherlock Holmes. Well, House is Sherlock Holmes and
of medicine.
Yeah, and
that's what I've heard it described as.
His assistant is called like James Wilson instead of Watson, and like your man's name is House instead of Home. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about House is actually, I'll say Suits is one of my favorite TV shows. And it doesn't obey its internal logic, and it doesn't. It does change characters to suit a narrative, and it does these things that I don't really. It's not that I don't like it, actually. In all honesty, it's just that it's bad. It makes a bad TV show, and that happens. But one thing that happens in Suits, and it happens in House a lot as well, is that like somebody, and I would actually imagine it happens in Sherlock Holmes, even though I've never seen it. Somebody is trying to figure something out to help solve a case or a medical problem or whatever it is. and they'll just be having a conversation with somebody, and the person will say some fucking vague metaphorical
anecdotal, yeah, I know what you mean.
And then it's just the guy goes, "That's it. We don't have to," and then they run away, and then the case is all solved because of that conversation. That's stupid. Like, TV shows need to stop doing that. And for the first like 6 episodes of Suits that I watched, I didn't like them at all, because it was so predictable for me. But then the characters made it so good, and that's what I'm gonna go back to always saying, is that if the show has good characters, I'll enjoy it. And the Suits characters are amazing, and that's why I watch it. Like, it does a lot of stupid things, and a lot of just stupid, like, you know, like movie, like the tropes where it's like, "Oh, you arrested me. I want my phone call. I'm legally
obligated."
Yeah, you can't. That's not a thing. If someone arrests you, they don't owe you a phone call for anything. You can't just phone someone just because you got arrested. Like, that's not how the law works. But in TV land and all, it is, and a lot of TV shows just adhere to those stupid, outdated, and incorrect sort of stereotypical allusions to law and stuff like that, and that's kind of annoying too.
Yeah. I think another thing is another BBC show, and it's not, well, I was going to say it's not fictional, but it's Top Gear. And speaking of characters driving a TV show, the characters of James May, Jeremy Clarkson, and Richard Hammond, even though that might be their actual personas, even slightly emphasised, their chemistry is what drives the show. Plain and simple.
Without a doubt,
there's no two ways about that.
With all this stuff about Clarkson leaving the show or getting sacked or whatever it is, the show could not go on without him. Like,
no,
literally couldn't. I don't even like Jeremy Clarkson that much. Like,
no, I'm not a massive fan of Clarkson outside of the show, but
yeah, I agree. In the show,
in the world of the show,
yeah,
the three are irreplaceable. There's no way, and I don't think they're going to fire Jeremy Clarkson. If they do, they know it will spell the end of Top Gear, and it's their highest earning program.
Yeah, they won't sack him.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to.
I remember at one time, like, he was interviewing James Blunt, and James Blunt was like, "Oh, I've got a motorcycle," and Jeremy Clarkson's reply was, "Oh, I didn't know you were a homosexual." Like, that's not even the type of humor that I like. I think calling someone or something gay is literally as lame as it gets. Like, that's the worst type of humor. But I laughed, and I don't know why. It's just, and I don't even like Clarkson either. I actually think he's kind of a dick, but that made me laugh. Like, that's just how it works in the show.
No, yeah, I agree completely. But I mean, Top Gear, people always complain. I always see people complaining, "Oh, it's scripted," and it's like, well, not all of it's scripted, but especially on their African specials and the specials where they go across these countries. Yeah, some of it is going to be scripted, but it's fucking funny regardless.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like, I don't, people are going, "Oh, but it's a factual program." It's fucking not. It hasn't been a factual program for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, they just work under the guise of it pretending to be a factual program.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's scripted, but it's not like it.
It's scripted, but it's not fake.
Yeah, it's scripted like the way that wrestling is scripted. The outcome is predetermined, but what you see in the midst of that is still a real execution of whatever they're trying to do, and their personas are definitely an amplification of their actual personalities or whatever, but that's just entertainment. Like, that's a lot of people just get overly cynical about everything these days, especially when it's things on TV that other people like that they don't like. It's like, you're not allowed to like this because it's scripted anyway. You know what I mean? It's like Ronaldo scored this incredible goal the other day. I don't know if you saw it. It was
the back heel goal.
Yeah, it was so good. And like, people who really like Leo Messi just say that it's not a good goal, and they're just like, "Oh, fucking back heel from 5 yards out. Like, wow, he just threw his leg in the air and it went in. Like, yeah, come back to me when he scores 91 goals in a calendar year." And all this, it's just like, look, Messi is the best player in the world in my opinion. But Ronaldo's goal was fucking incredible. Like, it's just an awesome goal. Like, you can't just disagree with that just because you like something else better, Like, I hate all that shit. Like, people do it all the time nowadays. It seems to have, I don't know if they've always done it or not, but it seems to be more prevalent now. I guess because more people can say more things now because of the internet. But
yeah, I think people seem to have forgotten what comparisons are, and the fact that their opinion, it's like, it's like the rise of the internet and being able to express their opinions has made people forget that it's an opinion and not a fact.
Yeah.
But then again, people have probably always been like that. But it's just with the internet, it's more obvious because you can see it more instead of just in your friendship group.
Yeah, I'd say that's what it is. I don't think that the internet has really changed our personalities in any way. I think it's just an extension of it. And you see that with kind of everything on the internet. Like, nothing has really happened in the last 10 years that's been bad for society that you can blame the internet for. Like, people say the neck nominations and stuff, that they were really bad, but like, dares have always existed. Like, I remember when I was like 10, a kid dared another kid to swim across the River Liffey in Dublin, and the kid drowned. Like, if that happened over Facebook, someone would be like, "Oh, that's Facebook's fault," but it's not. It's humanity's fault. It's human nature's fault. It's stuff like that.
I think people, sure, neck nominations spread across the world easily because of Facebook, and just because of the internet. But primary, going back to when you were younger in like primary school, elementary school and stuff, you can talk to someone that went to school across the country from you about a game that you played in your primary school, and they'll have played the same game.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, that we predate the internet, but it doesn't mean that I've forgot what I'm trying to say, but you get the gist.
Yeah,
it's not
like the
internet hasn't caused things to spread. Sure, it's made things spread easier, but it's not. It's not the sole source of things spreading across the world.
Yeah, it's things that are happening anyway. They're just never all put under the same umbrella. And as well as that, it's like how, say, me and you have this inside joke about the sea people. Like, yeah. And now so many other people listening have the same inside joke. And this is like a group of people, like the 2,500 people or whoever, like the active listeners are. We all share this same joke now of the sea people, which never would have happened before because it just would have been our joke between the two of us. Yeah. But because of the internet, it's shared more. That's just what it is. It's a spread. Everybody has inside jokes with each other, but now we all have the same one. And it's the same way that what you were saying about you've played a game in primary school that someone else across the country has played. They likely called it a different name, but it's the same game. Now what we have is just it's all the umbrella of neck nominations, and it's just, I think that's kind of a good analogy for it, anyways. Yeah. Shall we go with another question?
Yeah, sure. Shall we make this the last one?
Yeah, I think so. We've done well here, I think. Next question is from Anonymous. This Anonymous guy, man, he's asking all the questions today. If you could do anything without consequence, what would it be?
That's a big one.
Yeah, I have my answer. Like, the moment I read it, I knew what my answer was. It was one of those.
I'm guessing, I'm assuming that without consequence, or without consequence means that no one will kind of say I was to kill someone. No one after the fact that it had happened would kind of remember it, as it were. Yeah. So no one could judge me. So that's the kind of without consequence I'm thinking.
But what I'm thinking is that even if you kill someone, like they don't die, because the consequence isn't that they die. Like, you get the act of killing them, but the consequence is that they don't die. Well, that's how I read it, because otherwise it's a consequence is that person is never coming back. Like, so if there is
so there's literally no. So say if we take it in and say that the day starts and anything you do in that day will be undone because the day will start again after the day happens, as it were. That's actually, but you'll still be able to remember
that is the best way of interpreting that question, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd jump off something really high up.
Oh my god.
I really want to know what it's like to fly.
That's the exact fucking answer.
And if I have to hit the ground to know what that feels like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, that's honestly, as soon as I read it, that was my first thing, was I want to jump out of a plane without a parachute.
Yeah.
And that's I want to know what that's like to just glide through the air and not have to care about anything and whatever. Like, that's the first thing that honestly came to my head. I cannot believe you said the exact same fucking thing as me.
I've always wanted to know what it is like to fly. Skydiving is definitely on one of my big to-do lists in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely if it means that, you know, I can just jump off a really tall building, or, you know, jump out of an aeroplane without a parachute for a day and have no consequence before that, great.
Isn't it funny
Fantastic.
how, like, we say this, but we could just go skydiving and it would be mostly the same experience. Like, we've never jumped out of a plane with a parachute, so we don't know how much better it would be to jump out without it. Yet here we are saying, like, yeah, I definitely want to jump out of a plane. It's like, we can pretty much do that anyway. Like, we just, I don't know, for whatever reason. I'm too afraid to skydive because I've got, like, a heart problem. And I'm just afraid that the adrenaline and all of that stuff would just be bad for me. But I'm sure I'd handle it. I don't know. I do find that interesting how that was my immediate response. But at the same time, it's something that I technically can do. I would just have to wear a parachute, which, alright then. For the sake of saving my life, I guess I'll fucking comply.
I know, it's like having to get dressed to go to work. I can't just turn up in my pants. Ugh.
Yeah, God, society is so old-fashioned that way.
I think we're done here.
We are done here. If you guys enjoyed this episode and the different format of it, let us know, because we might do more of these in the future. This might be a one-time thing. We don't really know. We don't know anything about what we do. Yeah. We just kind of do things. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. Jack, thanks for turning up once again.
No worries. I'm happy to do it.
We should make this a thing. We should do this more often. We should do more stuff like this.
We should do this weekly.
Yeah, no, that's bizarre. Nobody.
Like a podcast. Oh my god.
A podcast? What the hell is a podcast? You're an idiot. Get out of here. You're blocked. But yeah, cheers. Fuck this.